The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm John Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining me. And I just having a quick announcement to make before I get rolling tonight. Actually, two announcements. The first announcement is David Heller, who has been co-host of the Citizen Report for about a year now. He is relinquishing his news anchor duties and effectively is relinquishing his co-host duties. He will continue to be chief weather correspondent, and also he will be going forward in a contributor status as well here on the Citizen Report. And I just want to take a quick second to thank David for his contributions to the Citizen Report so far. He really was instrumental in encouraging me to go ahead and pursue relaunching the Citizen Report, and I am so grateful to David for everything he has contributed to this broadcast in the last year, or actually a little more than a year, if I include the times he was involved before he actually became co-host. And I just want to say before moving on that he basically his schedule is very tight, very busy now, and so understandably he's having to kind of take a step back at this point. So I just want to thank David, and I just want to thank David for his contributions to the Citizen Report so far. But of course, David isn't gone completely. He will still be chief weather correspondent, and he will be here as a contributor from time to time. And by chief weather correspondent, he basically will be able to contribute as he wishes, anytime he wants to come on and talk about weather related subjects. I anticipate if we have a major hurricane or a particular weather system of interest, then his expertise in that field will be very beneficial to this broadcast. So, and also as a contributor, he's always welcome to come on and talk about news items and such that he wants to talk about. And I just want to thank David again, just one more time. I just want to thank David for everything he's done for this broadcast. Now, the other announcement I have to make is regarding my personal life, and it has to do with my dad. My dad remains in the hospital. He's been in the hospital, I believe, since early January 18th. January 18th, we took him to the emergency room. He remains in the hospital, and frankly, in the natural, his condition at the moment isn't particularly good. But I personally remain hopeful, and we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I personally am not giving up hope. As I should say, I am personally not giving up hope about my dad. So, and he's a Christian, so I'm not worried about where he's going after he passes. Hopefully that's many, many years from now. But I just want to say that there may come a point in time that I may need to scale back my duties here on the Citizen Report temporarily. I have already begun to make arrangements informally to have someone basically step in if I need to take a step back for a time. I don't know if that will be necessary, but if you're listening to this broadcast, you know who you are. Cody Matthew Navarro has already basically stepped up and offered to be on the broadcast if his schedule allows. So we'll wait and see what happens. I do apologize in advance. I know that my presenting skills aren't the best tonight. Frankly, I am absolutely worn out, but I just appreciate all of y'all watching and bearing with me during this difficult season. And I just hope that Dad recovers, and I would ask that everyone please continue to pray for my dad. So on that note, I want to move on to this video from a few days ago. This is the Democrats versus Matt Gaetz, who's a Republican from the state of Florida, the panhandle of Florida, I should say. And he basically, Matt Gaetz on this committee basically wanted to put forward an item that would have it stipulate that they would hold a Pledge of Allegiance. And the Democrats, perhaps not surprisingly, basically said, no, we don't want to do that. So, and basically, the Jerry Nadler is his name, the Democrat, basically said it's unnecessary. So I just want to play this clip for you because I think it's important to remember who the Democrats really are. And I'm not here suggesting that all Republicans are immune from the things that Democrats do in terms of being treasonous. I'm not suggesting that, but I just want to make it clear. Matt Gaetz, who was a Republican, he's one of the good ones. He's one of the true Republicans. So I want to play this video for you. It's a little under 2 minutes long because I believe it's important that you understand what's taking place in Washington, because I believe this is perfectly symbolic of what we're facing here with the Democrats especially, but also the rhinos, the hybrids, if you will, the half donkey, half elephant creatures, if you will. So let me share the screen here. This will come up in just a second. And I just want to play this for you and for your consideration, and just pay close attention to what's said, because I think it describes how Congressman Matt Gaetz wanted to basically extend an olive branch. He wanted to try to have a unifying moment where people, regardless of party membership, they can come together as Americans and have the Pledge of Allegiance, to which the Democrats rejected. So here we go. Let's play this, and then we'll continue.
Who seeks recognition? Mr. Gaetz.
I have an
What
amendment.
purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to the Rules of Procedure offered by Mr. Gaetz of Florida. In Rule 2, renumber clauses B.
Mr. Chairman, I reserve a point of order. Point of order is reserved.
B through 1 as clauses C through M, and after Clause A, insert the following. B, at the start of each meeting, the chairman or the chairman's designee shall lead the committee in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag in accordance with Section 4 of Title 4 of the U.S. Code.
The gentleman is recognized to speak in his amendment for 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to extend a welcome to the new committee members. I'm grateful to be back on this august committee, and I understand and appreciate the significance and importance of the work that we do. And I just think it would be nice if, in the spirit of national unity and national pride, which I know we all aspire to do to a greater extent, that at the beginning of each meeting, the chair or one of the designees of the chair would have the opportunity to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're all aware that in these times, it's important for the country to see members of Congress working together on some things. And while I know that we can deal with divisive issues in the committee, it would be my hope that we could start every committee with a great unifying patriotic moment. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. I recognize myself to speak in opposition to the amendment. It's unnecessary.
They're really showing themselves to do really well. Come on, man.
All right, so what you just saw was Congressman Matt Gaetz, again, a Republican from the panhandle of Florida, basically speaking on that committee about the idea of holding the Pledge of Allegiance. And then you saw Jerry Nadler, who's one of the big Democrats in Congress, I believe in the House, basically speak his opposition to that. So this is exactly what we're up against. This is the Democrats. And again, I'm not suggesting that all Republicans are good. There are some really, really bad Republicans who frankly should belong on the Democrat side anyway. But even disregarding the party issue itself, what we're really facing is liberty versus tyranny, patriot versus a Benedict Arnold, a treasonous person, because what we have here, we have these Democrats who think they're in full control. And of course, we know they're not. They're just being made to believe that they're in full control. And you see them reveal their true colors. And this is, I think, just another example of that, that they don't even want to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. It is not a political thing. It is purely, it is your pledge to allegiance to this constitutional republic. And the fact that they don't even want to do that, I think is perfectly emblematic, perfectly symbolic to what the Democrats are all about, how the deep state really, how they really think, how they really operate, because their allegiance is not to the United States of America. And dare I say, it's not even really to the U.S. corporation or whatever it is you want to call it, if there is such a thing. It's actually to globalism at the end of the day. If you trace it all the way up, it's globalism, which you can also call it New World Order. There's other monikers you could ascribe to the New World Order or globalism. It's really all rolled up into the same thing if you think about it. Now, I want to also bring to your attention an article from Time Magazine. This is dated from February 4th, written by Molly Ball. Again, this is Time Magazine, and the title reads, "The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election." Now, I'm going to base this off of X22 Report because he provides some commentary here and then quotes the article here. And so I just want to read to you what basically X22report.com has to say. Now, we do see here that he quotes, now this may be actually where he's basing his commentary off of, is redstate.com. So here on redstate.com, you got, why did Time Magazine spill the beans about anti-Trump shadow campaign? And that article was from Red State, is from February 6th. Now, first, let me read to you this excerpt from what appears to be, I'm assuming, from this article. Here's what it says. It says, why at this particular time do you spill the beans? I assume from this person Ball interviewed, they felt like mission accomplished, and it was all for the good. So we can now brag about our victory. It is also telling that the interviewee, Basson, feels it is massively important for the country to understand that it didn't happen accidentally. As one conservative friend commented on the Time article, it's like they're saying, look at me, look at me. I want to get credit for all I did, you stupid Americans, to protect democracy. Now, here's a direct quote from the article itself from Time Magazine, okay? It reads, quote, "That's why the participants wanted the secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people, ranging across industries and ideologies, working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election, they were fortifying it. And they believe the public needs to understand the system's fragility in order to ensure that democracy in America endures." Now, what I find personally so fascinating about what Time Magazine is saying, now they obviously cloak it in language, but notice this phrase here. They were not rigging the election, they were fortifying it. Now, what does fortifying really mean? Does it really mean fortifying, or are they really saying something else? Because if you look back up here, actually, let me pull up Time Magazine. And I'm just going to scroll down here a bit to about right here. It says, and this is from Time Magazine, it says their work touched every aspect of the election. They got states to change voting systems. Hello. What does that bring to your mind? And laws, voting systems and laws, and helped secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. Now, why is there even why is there even private funding involved in a public system in other words, a voting system, that's just my question, they fended off voter suppression lawsuits, recruited armies of poll workers, and got millions of people to vote by mail for the first time. They successfully pressured social media companies to take a harder line against disinformation and used data-driven strategies to fight viral smears. They executed national public awareness campaigns that helped Americans understand how the vote would unfold, how the vote count, I should say, would unfold over days or weeks, preventing Trump's conspiracy theories and false claims of victory from getting more traction. After Election Day, they monitored every pressure point to ensure that Trump could not overturn the result. The untold story of the election is the thousands of people of both parties who accomplished the triumph of American democracy at its very foundation, says Norm Eisen, a prominent lawyer and former Obama, sounds real bipartisan, huh? Says both parties, and yet you've got someone from the woodworks from the then Obama administration, a prominent lawyer and former Obama administration official who recruited Republicans, meaning rhinos, and Democrats to the board of the Voter Protection Program. So this article, and this is me talking here, this article is laced with bias, just dripping in bias. But if you turn on your discernment in real time as you're reading this, you'll begin to really understand why it is that none of us have confidence that the election actually went the way the people willed for it to be, because you see all kinds of irregularities in this article because they don't explain anything. They just say they got states to change voting systems and laws. Well, there's two problems with this statement already. Voting systems, well, what does that mean? Why do you need to change a voting system? And then voting laws. Well, in order for something to be law, doesn't it have to be passed by the legislative branch of government? Yes, it does. And yet you have the Georgia Secretary of State basically breaking bread with, what's her name? Stacey Abrams, if I'm not mistaken. And basically they altered how things worked in Georgia pertaining to the voting, how voting actually was dealt with. So this is very concerning, and yet also it's also just brilliant how the Trump and the Patriots, they're allowing these people to really expose themselves right now. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing the Democrats and rhinos expose themselves. And go back down here. It says, after Election Day, they monitored every pressure point to ensure that Trump could not overturn the result, meaning they were ready to rig it. They were ready to basically prevent Trump from holding the system accountable. They stopped Trump from basically successfully suing in court with damning evidence that that the laws were not followed. So again, you have to use your discernment, but if you really stop to read what these words are really saying, you begin to understand that metaphysically, they have to tell us that these people, these people from the deep state, they metaphysically have to tell us what they're doing. So, and I believe this is one way they're doing it. They're basically telling us, if for those paying attention, what they're really saying. Now, they're not really coming right out and saying, "Hey, look, we just stole the election, and that's that." Yes, you have maybe low-level people basically blurting it out occasionally, but as for things like articles in Time magazines, you really have to stop to analyze the language of what they're saying. When they say they monitored every pressure point to ensure that Trump could not overturn the result, what I personally read into that is they basically looked at every possible avenue that Trump could use to basically, wherever there's an issue, there has to be a remedy, right? In law, there is a remedy for an issue. And Trump, when he sought a remedy, and I'm using a legal term, remedy, his remedy was denied. The remedy should have been that the court said, now, wait a minute, the laws were changed illegally because a legislator The legislature or legislative branch was not involved. It was unilaterally done, in the case of Georgia, unilaterally by the Secretary of State or whatever it was that happened there. But my point being is that the legislative branch was not who did the change, which means that in operation of law, the law in Georgia never actually changed. They just basically did what's the term? Executive fiat, or they conducted color of law, and basically they made an illegal change, which would mean that the vote in Georgia is invalid. That's my personal opinion, but I believe that that opinion would hold up in court. But my point also is that I believe, as I just alluded to, that Trump and the Patriots are in full control. They are allowing the deep state right now to play their hand. They're showing their hand. They're showing us what the deep state is really all about. The Biden, he's breaking almost every promise he ever made. Well, I'm just going to say it, every promise he ever made, just about. And people are seeing that. We the people are seeing that. And of course, we know that Biden is not the real president by operation of law. And by operation of law, I mean that, yes, he may call himself president. Yes, he may have been, quote unquote, sworn in, but that doesn't make him president. If I stopped right now and I recited the presidential oath of office, if I even had the Chief Justice, John Roberts from SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, if he himself came to the house that I am recording this broadcast in right now and administered the presidential oath of office, I ask you, does that make me president? Of course it doesn't, because we have rule of law in this country. Random people just don't become president. It doesn't work that way. And even though they certified, quote unquote, in the both chambers of Congress, it still doesn't matter, because the Electoral College was, from those states that you had massive voter fraud, illegal changes to the law, that's completely void, because the Electoral College did not follow the will of the people. That is what's supposed to happen. And if in the case where there's irrevocable damage done to the voting process, it is then this up to the states to remedy that by casting their votes from the legislatures. One vote per state. So, and that's assuming I'm thinking that right. If I got some of that, if I got anything wrong, someone can correct me. But that's my personal opinion, my personal understanding of the matter. So, if the process fails, the Constitution provides for a remedy. That remedy was not followed. But Trump and the Patriots, they are allowing this to play out as it's playing out right now. We're seeing that. So I do believe that that the impeachment is going to not go the way the Democrats and rhinos think it's going to go. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But I have multiple reasons to believe that that the D-class that Trump ordered while he was still president officially, I believe that we're going to see that come into play pretty soon. I do believe that Trump and the Patriots have all the evidence that they need about voter fraud. What does that mean exactly in terms of what happens? I don't know. But I can speculate that and we know that the Supreme Court has agreed to have certain hearings regarding the elections later this month. And I'm not holding my breath very much on that, but I will say this. It would be very curious. It would be very interesting if all of a sudden Biden is declared invalid as president. Do I think that's really going to happen? I'd say less than a 50% chance, but you know what? Miracles do happen. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But I find it very interesting that certain things are coming together right now. Now, before I sign off, I want to play for you something else here, and just bear with me for a second, because a lot of people have been talking about something called the Act of 1871. Now, a lot of people believe, and I personally have pondered on this and even believed for a time myself, that basically we have what's called a U.S. corporation, for lack of a better word, basically created in 1871 over D.C., District of Columbia. Now, I'm not saying that that isn't true, but I just want to read to you something that is of congressional record, or I should say, well, I'm not exactly sure. This is an official record, but I'm not sure exactly where this came from. But it is the official record. Now, this is February 21st, 1871. It says chapter, I believe that's 62. An act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. And here's what it says, because again, I'm not trying to say the Act of 1871 isn't somehow linked to all the tyranny we're seeing today. I'm just saying that this is what the document says in the first paragraph of this chapter, of this section. And I just want to be clear that the Act of 1871 established basically a municipal corporation for DC. Now, I do believe that there's truth to this idea of a corporation for the United States. Now, do I think it's as far reaching as some want to make it out to be? I don't really know. Personally, I do believe there's truth to it, because I've seen the government do way too many weird things. For example, in order to basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, for example, if you want to change your name legally, you have to go to court. Well, wait a minute. Why do you have to go to court to legally change your name? Isn't it your name? Isn't it your property under God? Isn't it your what your parents gave you, not the government? See, this is the thing. We have way too many things here that are inconsistent with that. If we were truly just a republic without anything like a corporation, because and I'm probably losing some people as I'm talking here, but my point being is that I do believe that there is such a thing as a U.S. corporation. Whether or not it is completely as far-reaching as people want to make it out to be, I don't know. I'm just saying the jury is still out on that, but I do believe there's truth to their existing a corporation. I do know that in law that it basically says all crimes are commercial. And I also know that there are certain entities listed as corporations that are called something like United States of America or something like that. It's absolutely freakazoid. It's absolutely freakazoid. And I'm just going to admit to you, I don't have all the facts as pertaining to a U.S. corporation, but I just want to basically bring this to your attention, and hopefully you'll do your own research and maybe report back to me what you find, so maybe we can help each other understand all this better, because I think it's so much, all this stuff that we're trying to learn is so much far reaching that we can ever possibly get our heads around with this deep state, this tyranny that's been festering for over a century. So I just want to read to you this portion of the act of, what has been commonly termed as the Act of 1871. Here's what it says. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that all that part of the territory of the United States included within the limits of the District of Columbia be, and the same is hereby, created into a government by the name of the District of Columbia, by which name it is hereby constituted a body corporate for municipal purposes, and may contract and be contracted with, sue and be sued, plead and be impleaded, have a seal, and exercise all other powers of a municipal corporation not inconsistent with the Constitution and laws of the United States and the provisions of this act. So I'm going to stop right there. There's more to this, but my point being is that there's been people that have said there's two constitutions, that there's a constitution basically as the founding fathers put into place, and then there's another constitution having to do with a corporation. I have yet to see evidence of this. Whether now, my question would be, is this constitution actually referring to the real constitution? And moreover, why do we because this is on all levels of government, by the way. This is certainly not unique in this situation, but municipal corporation. They call it a municipal corporation, but why? First of all, why does it need to be a corporation for a government to work? And secondly, if it really is a corporation in the sense that it purports seems to be, if you're thinking about a corporation in a traditional sense, and then you're looking at a municipal corporation, then who holds the shares? That's what I'd like to know. And if it's not set up that way, my question would still be, why is it even a corporate, or I should say a municipal corporation? Why do we even need that? Why can't it just be the government of people? You know what I mean? Why, if a government is established, why can it not just be called a government? And why do we even need this stuff about a municipal corporation? So my point being is that I'm trying to balance it with this Act of 1871 stuff with fact, but at the same time, I admit my jury is still out on some of this. But I find it very odd that they in this case, and even in other cases, like here in Gastonia, where I live, the city I live, I'm pretty sure they are also referred to as a municipal corporation. So again, why does a government need to be called a municipal corporation? So I'd be curious to see what y'all have to say about that. And I think it's an interesting subject to think about, and we may revisit this subject at a later time. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the Citizen Report basically right here and now. Well, actually, before I do, one final thing about the Act of 1871, just to make sure I'm perfectly clear. I do believe there is such a thing as a corporation. And we'll have to wait and see if we get more information on this as time goes on. But I do believe that there is such a thing as the republic and then the corporation. Now, whether if you call it corporation or just the deep state or tyrannical overreach of power, whatever you want to call it, I do believe there is such a thing as a dual legal system. But whether or not it goes to the same extent as some people have claimed, like the birth certificate stuff and things like that, I'm not denying that. I do believe there's certainly some compelling arguments, but when I'm dealing purely with evidence, I've yet to see an absolute smoking gun. I have seen certain things like a banknote, like on the bottom of the birth certificate, it's printed with some having to do with being, like a banknote, being printed by a banknote company, for example. And, again, like there's like a law that basically states or defines a crime as being commercial. I don't have it pulled up, but if someone out there in the audience is aware of what I'm talking about, maybe they can refer me to that. But we'll have to wait and see how this develops, because I do believe as time goes on, people are catching on to this more, especially now that with Biden claiming to be president. I do not believe that he is in actual operation of law. I believe he's just an unlawful occupant of the Oval Office, but that's just my personal opinion. But we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. I do believe that if there's truth to this, I do believe we'll learn more as time goes on. So on that note, I just want to thank everybody for tuning into the Citizen Report. And I just want to make this announcement again, that due to the ongoing circumstances about my dad, I hope he recovers and gets healthy, and that he has many years left with us on this side of eternity. I know he'll be in heaven if he passes, but I hope he has many years left with us. But I just want to say, regardless of whether, he lives for past this crisis or, but regardless, I just want to be clear that I may have to scale back for a period of time. As you can tell, my presenting skills aren't particularly the best tonight. I'm trying to do as best as I can, but as you can probably tell, I am not exactly on my A game tonight. But I'm forging ahead as best as I can with this. But I've already had someone approach me about being a substitute host. So with David no longer being co-host, obviously I can't just fall back on him as readily as I might have previously. He's never actually filled in for me where I wasn't even on. But my point being is that I may have to rely on somebody. And I know of one person who's already stepped up to the plate and made that offer. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I just want you to know I'm going to try my best to keep going forward with the Citizen Report. But I'm just going to ask in advance for grace in this time, because this has been an extremely difficult period of time in my life and in my family's life. And I think y'all can understand why that is the case. So on that note, I want to say God bless each and every one of you. And don't forget stinger.live, the page for the Citizen Report on stinger.live/the Citizen Report. Be sure to join up on that platform. It's a really good platform. The platform is pretty new. So please get on that and join and follow the Citizen Report. I'll be sure to reciprocate. And also come to my website, thecitizenreport.weebly.com. God bless each and every one of you, and I'll see you right back here again next time. Have a good night, everyone.